This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, March 14th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Disagreement among Democrats over whether to pass the House budget bill and avoid a government shutdown. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
President Trump is threatening to ramp up his trade war.
We're not going to bend. We've been ripped off.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to allow restrictions on birthright citizenship. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Airplane catches fire at the Denver airport. Court-martial, what a former National Guard member had to say.
On Wall Street, stocks are coming off another ugly day, and the S&P 500 index is in correction. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
The website studentaid.gov experienced an hours-long outage. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
All ahead on America in the Morning. With the deadline to avoid a partial government shutdown fast approaching, Senate Democrats must decide if they want to take a stand against President Trump's policies or vote no on the House GOP's stopgap spending bill that would likely trigger the shutdown. John Stolnis has the latest from Washington.
Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer took to the Senate floor and declared he would vote to approve the House continuing resolution passed by Republicans earlier this week.
For Donald Trump, a shutdown would be a gift. It would be the best distraction he could ask for from his awful agenda.
Schumer said he was choosing the lesser of two evils.
I believe it is my job to make the best choice for the country, to minimize the harms to the American people. Therefore, I will vote to keep the government open and not shut it down.
In order for the bill to pass, at least 7 other Democrats will have to side with Schumer in order to get the 60 votes needed to eliminate a filibuster. Centrist Democrat John Fetterman has said he will also vote yes. Independent Senator Bernie Sanders telling MSNBC this should be an easy no for Democrats.
You got to draw a line. And I think the American people are prepared to stand with those of us who say that, you know what, we're a government of the people, by the people, for the people, not the oligarchy. And we're not going to give tax breaks to billionaires and take food away from hungry kids. You got to stand up. You got to fight back. You got to go into the streets. You got to rally the American people.
Republican Senate Majority Leader John Thune says if a government shutdown happens, it will be the fault of the Democrats.
It's time for Democrats to fish or cut bait. Democrats need to decide if they're going to support funding legislation that came over from the House or if they're going to shut down the government.
But Schumer believes a shutdown plays directly into the hands of President Trump and Elon Musk.
We should not give it to them. And make no mistake, Democrats will continue to fight what Donald Trump is doing.
Some Democrats pushed for a 30-day stopgap bill as an alternative, but Republicans rejected that idea. So now at least 8 Democrats must vote with Republicans to pass the CR that runs through September or risk a shutdown later tonight. John Stolnis, Washington.
After the U.S. and Canada held off on retaliatory tariffs this week, President Trump focused on the European Union, threatening to impose a massive tariff on alcohol imported from Europe after the EU announced retaliatory tariffs on U.S.-made steel and aluminum products. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
President Trump is threatening to ramp up his trade war, this time with sharp new tariffs on European alcohol.
He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries that, again, have been ripping us off. Tariffs are a tax cut for the American people, and the president is a staunch advocate of tax cuts. As you know, he campaigned on no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security benefits. He is committed to all 3 of those things.
The European Union's planning a 50% tariff on American whiskey as retaliation for the president's steel and aluminum tariffs.
The United States of America is going to take back a lot of what was stolen from it by other countries and by, frankly, incompetent U.S. leadership, grossly incompetent.
The president says if that happens, he'll put a 200% import tax on European wine, champagne, and spirits.
We're not going to bend. We've been ripped off as a country for many, many years. We've been subjected to costs that we shouldn't be subjected to.
It's another stage of the nearly daily tariff drama, but the one over alcohol could have fast impacts the public would see. The cost for a bottle of Italian Prosecco could go from $15 to $45. Wine distributors and shop owners worry about massive impacts, and European Commission spokesman Olaf Gills urging the president to negotiate an end to tariffs.
They bring nothing but lose-lose outcomes.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to reinstate thousands of workers let go in recent firings from various agencies. U.S. District Judge William Alsop in San Francisco says the Office of Personnel Management lacks the power to fire workers. The judge says the firings were unlawful. The administration is expected to file an appeal. Supreme Court tackles birthright citizenship when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. There's more rain and snow in store for some. Let's get the update. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
It looks like there will not be much, if any, time to dry out for a number of spots after a midweek storm brought inches of rain and feet of snow to parts of California, with a new storm quickly pressing on shore into some of these same areas today. The new disturbance is expected to bring at least occasional rain along the entire length of the West Coast, with another push of, at times, heavy mountain snow for Northern California and through the Sierra Nevada into the evening, leading to tough travel once again and greatly reduced visibility. Snow should reach much of eastern Oregon and parts of Nevada and northern Arizona by the end of the day, with the first storm still producing snow from the Colorado Rockies into eastern Montana for a time today. That leads into a zone where colder air funnels in for today, producing some late winter snow over the Dakotas and much of Minnesota as well. Accumulating snow of at least 1 to 3 inches is most likely from eastern parts of the Dakotas into the western half of Minnesota, but snow through Saturday may exceed 6 inches within a narrow corridor around the border of Minnesota and North Dakota. Farther to the south, an impressively powerful storm will deliver numerous impacts to the nation's center today, including the risk for severe weather extending from southern Minnesota and Wisconsin southward through the New Orleans area and perhaps even reaching far western Ohio by late at night. Storms may bring large hail, very strong winds, and numerous tornadoes. Even outside of storms, winds over 40 miles per hour are expected for much of the nation's midsection, perhaps gusting over 60 miles per hour from eastern New Mexico to central Oklahoma, where the fire risk may prove to be historically high. The eastern U.S. stays dry and mild. In Oklahoma City, watch for blowing dust with winds over 50 miles per hour and a high of 71. For San Francisco, it's cooler today with morning rain tapering to showers with a high of 58. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. A dangerous scene plays out at Denver International Airport when an American Airlines passenger jet caught fire while at the gate, forcing passengers who were on the plane to climb out onto the wing. Others scrambled down evacuation chutes or up the jetway back into the terminal. 6 crew members and 172 passengers were deplaned. The Boeing 737-800. Thick black smoke was seen coming from the plane parked at gate C-38. There were no reported injuries. After 3 courts rule against President Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship, an emergency application has been brought before the U.S. Supreme Court. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer has details.
The Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to allow restrictions on birthright citizenship to partly take effect while legal fights play out. District judges in Maryland, Massachusetts, and Washington have issued rulings that are blocking the executive order nationwide. The order would deny citizenship to those born after February 19th, whose parents are in the country illegally, and forbids U.S. agencies from issuing any document or accepting any state document recognizing citizenship for those children. Roughly 24 states, as well as several individuals and groups, have sued, saying the order violates the Constitution's 14th Amendment. The Trump administration wants the justices to allow the order to go into effect for everyone except for those that sued, arguing that the states lack the legal right or standing to challenge Trump's executive order. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Jack to Sarah. The Massachusetts Air National Guard member who caused an international uproar when he leaked highly classified documents about the war in Ukraine used his court-martial Thursday to describe himself as a proud patriot who was only, quote, exposing and correcting the lies perpetuated by the Biden administration. Teixeira pleaded guilty to military charges of obstructing justice and acknowledged he knew his actions were illegal but felt he needed to share the truth about his belief that the Biden administration was misleading the American public about the war in Ukraine. Teixeira was sentenced last year to 15 years in prison for his actions under the Espionage Act. U.S. Treasury Secretary does not rule out recession. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Markets and more with CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after another ugly day for stocks yesterday. Investors are worried about tariffs and even a possible recession. The S&P 500 index is now officially in correction, down 10% from its recent all-time high. And the Dow fell 500 points yesterday. It's below 41,000 for the first time since last September. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent spoke with CNBC's Sarah Eisen yesterday about the market pullback. Last week, he told CNBC the U.S. is in for a detox. Eisen asked him yesterday if that means recession, and he didn't rule it out.
62% of Americans own stocks. I mean, it's near 20-year high. So how can the White House not be concerned about hardworking Americans' 401k plans?
Sarah, I didn't say we're not concerned. I'm not concerned about a little bit of volatility over 3 weeks, because if you look over the long term, the reason stocks are a safe and great investment is because you're looking over the long term.
And here's Evans May Welt's Lizzie Evans on CNBC.
I certainly don't think the volatility is over, and we aren't out of the woods yet. If you look at the S&P 500, we've had a 9% drawdown since the all-time highs. So if we go back to 1980, if an investor were to buy every 10% dip, 6 months later, you're positive 76% of the time. And in a non-recession scenario, you're positive 86% of the time. So those are pretty good odds. But now the question is, will we enter a recession?
Wine and champagne producers in the European Union facing a new threat from President Trump, a 200% tariff on alcohol they ship into the United States.
I've been working all morning on the tariff, a possibility, the 200% tariff. I'm in the liquor business. My wife's in the liquor business. With champagne, it's actually devastating. 2% tariff would roughly double the shelf price. 200% double the shelf price. Well, I'm not going to be drinking Veuve Clicquot if it's like, twice what it was for. So it's pretty punitive.
CNBC Mad Money host Jim Cramer. Creative reuse centers are taking over where chains like Bankrupt and Closing, Joann Fabrics, are leaving off. Fast Company says these thrift stores for crafts sell everything from fabric to crayons to beads. Some have been open for many years, while others popped up recently, and some in the pandemic. On today's watch list, we get the latest on consumer sentiment, how people are feeling about the economy. It's Pi Day, 3.14 and beyond, and you'll get deals and discounts at lots of pizza chains and some bakeries, too. New in theaters, Focus features Black Bag, Paramount's Novocaine, A24's Opus, and there's a new Warner Brothers Looney Tunes movie called The Day the Earth Blew Up with Porky Pig and Daffy Duck.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, explosion at a Colorado nursing home. After these messages. This is America in the Morning. There was quite a scare for dozens of older residents in Denver following an explosion and fire at an assisted living facility. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
10 people were taken to hospitals after fire officials believe a power line was accidentally struck during construction work, causing an explosion and fire at the Eastern Star Masonic Retirement Campus in Denver. The Denver Fire Department says fire officials were able to bring Wednesday's blaze under control. Resident Barbara Hinchy tells KUSA-TV she was sitting in her chair when a blast shook the room, and she says she felt the boom. And she says she walked through dense smoke to get out. A total of 87 people were displaced. The American Red Cross of Colorado says all the residents who were not taken to the hospital have been picked up by family members or moved into temporary housing. I'm Donna Warder.
The website that allows students applying for college to receive financial aid abruptly shut down for hours on Wednesday. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports on the FAFSA outage.
Hundreds of users reported that the federal website for student loans and financial aid was down starting midday Wednesday. FAFSA users said they were having trouble completing the form, which is required for financial aid at colleges nationwide. The developers and IT support staff who worked on the FAFSA form were hit hard in the Education Department layoffs earlier in the week. The department also faced staff buyouts and the termination of probationary employees. In all, the Education Department reduced its staff by half since Trump took office. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
America in the Morning for Friday, March 14th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Proposed federal deregulation leads to more legal pushback. I'm Clayton Neville.
Growing concern and a more intense hunt for an American college student missing in the Dominican Republic. I'm Rich Johnson.
There is a warning from the FBI about toll scams. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Putin has demands for a Ukraine ceasefire, CDC nominee yanked at the last minute, and anti-Israel protesters storm Trump Tower. We'll have details.
News Corp tells Brave, stop scraping our websites. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
A violent but fun action movie races into theaters this weekend. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. Severe thunderstorms present a significant threat for dangerous conditions later today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
An area of low pressure has become rather strong while tracking over the Intermountain West through the night, and it will continue to become more potent through the day today, dragging a cold front into the central and southern plains and eventually the Midwest, as this feature encounters increasing moisture being lifted northward ahead of the front, as well as very warm air in place over the region for yet another day. All of the ingredients are expected to come together for widespread severe weather this afternoon and into tonight. All forms of severe weather will be in play, from destructive wind gusts along an expected squall line in the Midwest and large hail to tornadoes within a zone from the central Gulf Coast northward to central Wisconsin and eastward through Indiana. Tornadoes may be most numerous from the St. Louis area into northern Mississippi. However, the impacts from this disturbance will be wide-ranging, with the powerful storm producing a large zone of exceptionally strong wind gusts of at least 40 miles per hour from North Dakota and the High Plains eastward through the Chicago area and into the south, with gusts as high as 70 miles per hour, leading to both dust storms and a potentially historic fire risk from dry areas of eastern New Mexico into parts of Oklahoma and mainly western Texas. The northwestern side of this late-season storm brings colder air and even some snow to areas from eastern Colorado into the upper Midwest through the start of the weekend. From late tonight through Saturday, at least 1 to 3 inches of snow can be expected from the eastern Dakotas into western Minnesota, with a stripe of at least 6 inches most likely near and along the North Dakota-Minnesota border. Elsewhere in the nation, another round of rain and heavy mountain snow will blast western Oregon and especially California. Dry and mild to warm day for much of the east. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Amazon, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to reinstate thousands of fired federal workers. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
A federal judge is ordering 6 federal agencies to immediately reinstate employees who were fired last month as part of the Trump administration's effort to cut spending. So the ruling requires the Departments of Veteran Affairs, Defense, Agriculture, Energy, and Interior and Treasury to rehire those employees. Down the road, according to the judge, the order could be extended to include other agencies. The judge ruled that the firings were unlawful and said, quote, "It's a sad day when our government would fire some good employee and say it was based on performance when they know good and well that's a lie," end quote. The Justice Department plans to appeal. Meanwhile, Trump's cuts are drawing more attention from educators.
This administration's policies on public education, their hostility to public education, the naming of a Secretary of Education who is decidedly for a voucherization of public education, are putting universities in a very precarious situation.
Congressman Mark Takano.
So whether you're talking about policies that affect K-12 education or higher education, they are decidedly anti-public education and anti-higher education.
Education Secretary Linda McMahon confirmed massive layoffs at the Department of Education as the administration looks to return that issue to states. She spoke with Fox News.
We wanted to make sure that we kept all of the right people, the good people, to make sure that the outward-facing programs, the grants, the appropriations that come from Congress, all of that are being met, and none of that's going to fall through the cracks.
From education to energy, more proposed cuts from the Trump administration.
The largest deregulatory announcement in U.S. history.
As announced by EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin.
The Environmental Protection Agency is initiating 31 historic actions to fulfill President Trump's promise to unleash American energy, revitalize our auto industry, restore the rule of law, and give power back to the states.
Climate advocates, though, quick to point out that the recent announcements are not the same as final actions and encourage patience as the legal process plays out. I'm Clayton Neville.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is laying out his terms for a Ukraine ceasefire, rejecting calls to halt fighting immediately as Russian troops are gaining ground, and demanding that President Trump's special envoy not take part in the talks. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani has the latest.
Russia's Vladimir Putin says he agrees in principle with the U.S. plan for a temporary ceasefire in Ukraine, but says the details need to be worked out. Putin says the idea itself is the right one, and Russia certainly backs it, but says there are more issues to discuss, that any truce must lead to lasting peace.
We agree with the propositions to stop hostilities, but we proceed from the fact that such ceasefire should be such that would lead to a permanent peace and remove the initial, original causes of the crisis.
He suggests maybe talking about it with President Trump.
Yeah, I'd love to meet with him or talk to him.
The president says there are good signals coming from Russia.
He put out a very promising statement, but it wasn't complete.
Putin's comments came hours after a Trump envoy arrived in Moscow for talks on a ceasefire, coinciding with Russia saying its forces have knocked Ukraine's army out of a key Kursk border region town.
We're all working hard to get this thing finished. It's crazy over nothing, and it's not going to go anywhere. It's just a terrible situation. And I think we have a chance to get it done. So we've gotten half of it as a ceasefire, and if we can get Russia to stop, then we have a full ceasefire, and I think it'll never go back to war.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
It's been over a week now since a University of Pittsburgh student was last seen at a resort in the Dominican Republic. As correspondent Rich Johnson reports, both the hunt for the woman and concern for her safety have intensified.
Classes are back in session at the University of Pittsburgh, where the talk of the campus centers on 20-year-old Sudiksha Kunanki.
I think it's really crazy. Like, how do you just disappear from a beach? So it's definitely a little shady.
Can't imagine what the parents are going through. Like, it has to be really scary.
It's just a little concerning. I feel like there isn't just much detail about it. I just hope she's found.
A sampling of Pitt students courtesy of KDKA-TV. Kunanki, who's from the Washington, D.C. suburb of Loudoun, Virginia, was last seen March 6th taking a late-night beach walk with female friends and one male at the Punta Cana resort where she was enjoying spring break. That male, a student at a college in Minnesota, has cooperated with authorities and is not considered a suspect. He gave police conflicting stories about when he last saw Kunanki, but investigators chalk that up to him being very drunk. More than 300 people, including U.S. investigators, are on the case in the Dominican Republic.
The fact that their national police service is involved with a force of over 30,000 really shows the attention they're putting on this. Allowing the FBI to come in and be part of this investigation shows that cooperation as well.
Retired FBI Special Agent Robin Dreeke in comments courtesy of News Nation. Authorities first believed that Kunanki was the victim of an accidental drowning. Now they're considering all possibilities, including potential foul play. I'm Rich Johnson.
Anti-Israel demonstrations at Trump Tower. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. America in the Morning continues. The White House has pulled the nomination of David Weldon, proposed director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Fox News is reporting that the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee announced it had canceled its hearing at the last minute, saying the GOP did not have the necessary votes to get Weldon confirmed. Weldon, a medical doctor and former Florida congressman, has made statements against vaccines in the past, which were expected to be brought up during his hearing. Shifting gears, police were called out in force in New York City when anti-Israel demonstrators stormed Trump Tower and took over the ground floor lobby protesting the immigration arrest of Mahmoud Khalil. A follow-up from correspondent Haya Panjwani.
Demonstrators from a Jewish group filled the lobby of Trump Tower to denounce the immigration arrest of Mahmoud Khalil, a Columbia University activist who helped lead student protests against Israel's actions in Gaza. Among the protesters was actor Deborah Winger.
The Trump administration has no interest in Jewish safety. They are co-opting anti-Semitism as their, chant, just to get what they want, and I won't have it.
After warning the protesters to leave the Fifth Avenue building or face arrest, police began putting them in zip ties and loading them into police vans.
The government has basically admitted that they're punishing him for his views that are contrary to the government's views.
I'm Haya Panjwani.
Authorities are alerting people to beware of a massive scam targeting drivers who use electronic toll systems. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
The Bureau says it has received more than 2,000 complaints this month. People received text impersonating state toll road collection agencies, saying EasyPass or other toll accounts are unpaid in an attempt to get financial information, like a credit or debit card or bank account number. It's called a smishing scam. Phishing that relies on SMX text to trick people. Cybersecurity firm Palo Alto Networks says a threat actor has registered over 10,000 domains for the scams. The wording is usually the same. A false claim the person has an unpaid or outstanding toll that could result in fines or suspended driving privileges. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Tuna giant Bumblebee has found itself embroiled in a lawsuit. As correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports, it centers around fishermen suing the company, alleging it tolerates forced labor in the making of their popular seafood product.
Lawyers representing 4 Indonesian fishermen say the fishermen were beaten and trapped on vessels that were part of the global supply chain that provides tuna to Bumblebee Seafoods. The lawsuit against the canned seafood giant accuses it of knowingly benefiting from forced labor. Their lawyer says it is believed to be the first such case of forced labor at sea brought against a U.S. seafood company and accuses Bumblebee of violating the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. The law allows foreigners who suffered from human trafficking to sue U.S. businesses that knew or should have known that they were profiting from abuse. Bumblebee says it does not comment on pending litigation. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
News Corp, which owns large media websites including Fox News and Dow Jones, has accused a small search engine company, Brave Software, of copying data from their websites. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech News.
Brave Software, a competitor to Google's search engine, has been handed a cease and desist order from News Corp, threatening litigation and demanding compensation for the alleged misappropriation of copyrighted articles. Known as scraping websites for indexing content, Brave says this is how all search engine companies operate and how they make money. Brave has stated that they're operating under the Fair Use Act and has accused News Corp of threatening to disrupt advantages in generative artificial intelligence, saying that chatbots such as OpenAI's ChatGPT and Google's Gemini rely on search engine responses. Google currently owns 90% of the search market, Microsoft's Bing about 9%, and Brave Search coming in at a low 1%. Brave said that defendants which partner with Google seek to bully Brave out of the market and push the already high barriers to entry infinitely higher. News Corp CEO Robert Thompson said Brave is accusing their company of disguising its parasitical practices as traditional search. I'm Chuck Palm.
Friday Sports is in on America in the Morning. Here's Robert Workman.
NBA Thursday, the Warriors walloped the Kings 130-104 for their sixth straight dub. Steph Curry becomes the first player to hit 4,000 three-pointers in his career. He was also the first to make 3,000 3 years ago. Bucks lassoed the Lakers 126-106 despite 45 from Luka Doncic, his best game since coming to L.A.
Yeah, I mean, it was okay, but nothing matters if we lose the game, so... In the end of the day, it's a team sport, and we got to be all together.
Elsewhere, the Wizards got by the Pistons, the Bulls cut down the Nets, and the Magic made the Pelicans disappear. College basketball conference tournament play going on through the weekend, and some of the big boys on the court. Number one Duke topped Georgia Tech in the ACC quarterfinals, but Blue Devil star Cooper Flagg hurt his ankle late in the first half and is unlikely to play tonight against North Carolina. Number two Houston beat Colorado in the Big 12 quarters. Sixth-ranked St. John's advanced to the Big East semis with a win over Butler. Number 9 Texas Tech held off Baylor in the Big 12, and number 10 Clemson tripped SMU in the ACC. 14 automatic bids to the NCAA basketball tournament are in, 17 more conference tournament finals this weekend, and another 37 at-large bids will be awarded. The entire 68-team field revealed on Selection Sunday. NHL, the Kings blanked the Capitals 3-0. Darcy Kemper with 21 saves against his former team. Golden Knights shut out the Blue Jackets 4-0. Aiden Hill stopped 27 shots. Panthers shaded the Maple Leafs for their 7th win in 8 games. Senators slammed the Bruins. That's 5 wins in a row for Ottawa. Flyers, Penguins, Devils, Rangers, and Sharks were winners. That's Friday Sports.
Thank you, sir. When we return on America in the Morning, trapped in her car nearly a week, how she was found after these messages. A Florida Major League Baseball team is ditching plans to build a new facility, hoping simply to rebuild its weather-damaged dome stadium by 2026, correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh reports.
The Rays on Thursday withdrew from a $1.3 billion ballpark project, citing hurricanes and delays that likely will drive up the proposal's cost. The team issued a statement by principal owner Stuart Sternberg saying that a series of events in October, which included severe damage to the existing Tropicana field, led to what he called, quote, this difficult decision. Repairs are envisioned, including replacing its roof shredded by Hurricane Milton. The Rays are set to play this season's home games across Tampa Bay at the Yankees' 11,000-seat spring training home. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
A new action film is asking the question if you, the audience, can feel anything. Kevin Carr has a sneak peek at Novocaine.
Novocaine? It is you!
you. I thought you'd be dead by now.
Well, I'm not.
Jack Quaid stars as an assistant manager at a bank who has a crush on one of the tellers. When they finally go out, he confides in her that he has a medical condition in which he does not feel pain.
I'm just a regular guy, but I don't feel pain.
Let's move! Oh my God, what am I doing?
When a group of bank robbers led by Ray Nicholson takes a teller hostage, he embarks on a mission to save her while taking full advantage of his kinda-sorta superpower.
Why don't you just call the police?
Do you think I'm in on this?
Manslaughter, Grand Theft Auto.
This film has some entertaining and often hilarious action set pieces, bringing a frenetic energy to keep things going. And that's good because there's enough silly logic and factual nonsense in the script to make Bugs Bunny blush.
Be careful, dude. You can still die. I won't stop till I get her back.
Quaid makes things work because he's taken a different image path than Daddy Dennis, playing the nerdy guy in extraordinary situations.
You're gonna love this.
Though Nicholson channels his Papa Jack too much and comes across as a bad SNL caricature.
Open the vault! Cops are here early!
Still, Novocaine is a good time as long as you check your brain at the door.
What happened to your face?
You should see the other guy.
Novocaine gets 3.5 epinephrine injections out of 5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
Despite her ordeal, she found a way to survive. An Indiana woman is recovering in a hospital after being trapped in her crashed car for nearly a week. Correspondent Donna Warder reports the woman, found by chance by a construction worker, is lucky to be alive.
Brianna Castle was trapped in her car from last Thursday night until this Tuesday. Her father tells ABC News that the 41-year-old woman had fallen asleep at the wheel and veered off the road into a ditch in Newton County, Indiana. Castle had been reported missing by family members, but her car wasn't visible from the road. Her father says his daughter was stuck in her car and couldn't get out, so she survived by dipping her hooded sweatshirt into a small creek nearby. That's how she got the water to her mouth. On Tuesday, a man operating drainage equipment saw Castle's car and told his supervisor, who's also a fire chief. They found Castle inside the car, conscious and able to speak. She's in a Chicago hospital where her mother says she needed surgery on her broken legs. She also broke a wrist, but is expected to eventually recover. I'm Donna Warder.
My heart hat off to the construction worker. America in the Morning for Friday, March 14th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.